Orchestration of unattended robots, creating logs and more advanced features of RPA development. I called in an expert today. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, good morning, Anders. How are you?
Ni- I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Good, good. I'm doing great. Ready
And
to go.
welcome to all you viewers out there. This session is for you. We will go through orchestration and unattended robots today. I have the expert Nicole with me. Nicole know everything about OpenBots and how to set it up, so we can just bombard her with questions. I will make sure
Yes,
to
please.
bring the questions to Nicole. We will do it in chunks, so maybe once 5 or 10 minutes.
Sounds
Nicole will
good.
answer the questions. So, Nicole, what do we have for us today?
Hello, guys. My name is Nicole, by the way. I'm a software developer here at OpenBots. I work a lot with the cloud and cloud orchestration, so I'm really excited to show you guys some stuff here. First of all, I wanted to just kind of show you guys the OpenBots.ai website. I am already logged in, and as you can see, I can go to my account to my dashboard here. And we have plenty of applications that we can use to integrate all of our automations, right? So the cloud is basically just a one-stop shop for all of the platforms that we offer. Today, I'll mostly be discussing the cloud server, but we will integrate some studio, some agent stuff, a little bit of everything, which is really nice. So this is kind of a great wrap up to everything that you guys have learned so far. I know you've been doing some studio stuff, you've been learning about documents, all of that fun stuff. So I
And maybe
know,
just a stupid
yep,
question, but what is an unattended robot?
sure. So I will get to that a little bit further, but just to clarify what that is so you understand what we will be doing today. An unattended robot is basically an automation that is run unattended. That means that you don't need to be involved in the automation itself. It just runs by itself. It does its own thing. When we go to the cloud server, you can set schedules. You can run it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. every day, something like that. So it's basically more of a kind of thing where it just kind of runs on its own and does its own thing. Attended means that you may need some sort of human in the loop automation where you may need to approve something or check something or do something in between, before, after the automation runs, right? So
Cool.
today we're going to work a little bit more with unattended. I will show you some things that we can do attended as well, just because most of the time you may need a little bit of both, one of each, right? But for the most part, we will focus mostly on unattended today.
Cool.
Yep. So as you can see, I'm already logged in. I will kind of go over mostly the cloud server. We do have an on-prem version of the server, but today I will only be discussing what we can do with the cloud server. So I will go over that. I'm just going to switch my org here. So let's get started on the cloud server. All right, so as you can see, I'm logged in. I can have multiple organizations here. Whatever my email account is that's associated, my billing status. As you know, we do have that 30-day free trial, but after that, we do have paid subscriptions. So my billing status right now is active, which is great. My billing date is a little off because I work for OpenBots, so I get all the good stuff for free. You guys, unfortunately, will have to pay as a client, but it will give you the correct billing date.
But one
You
of the
will.
benefits about OpenBots, as I understood it, is it's relatively cheap compared to
Mhm.
other all the other enterprise RPA tools. So that one will be a
Exactly.
benefit.
Exactly. Um, so I can go over the pricing options. I'm not sure if Brian did that already.
We can do that a little bit later. That's fine,
Sure,
Nicole.
sure. So as of right now, here's the cloud server. It'll give you some dashboard statistics, things that you have going on in your automations. So the cloud server, more or less, to define it, is really an orchestration tool, right? I know a lot of people know UiPath. Theirs is the orchestrator, right? it manages, it schedules, it runs all of the automations, whether it be attended, unattended, all of that stuff. It maintains all of the automations that you have created. You can upload them from the studio. I'll show you guys how to do that in a little bit as well. There are a lot of things that you can do here. As you can see on the left-hand side, there are many different components to the cloud server. I probably won't have time to go through all of them, but the main ones we will discuss, I promise. So we can start with agents. We already know that there is software that OpenBots has called the agent or the assistant, right? So on the cloud server, we can create those machine accounts for the agent to be able to connect to the cloud server. So as you can see, my Nicole VM is the one I'm going to be using. I'm connected, I'm healthy, everything's working as expected. So you can see how your agent is running and working, which is really awesome. We do have some statistics here as well. As you can see, my agent has not been active for more than an hour. Obviously, that will change very soon. We may have some enhanced security options, some extra settings, and any metrics that we need to make sure that our agent is running as expected. So in case you guys don't already know, the agents can be running on a separate machine. I currently have mine running on my VM, but you can have it running from anywhere. That's what the cloud server is great for, right? You can have your orchestration tool run it anywhere you want, whether your agent is, on the opposite side of the world or right next to you. That's why we really like to go with the cloud server, just because it is a tool that you can use pretty much anywhere, right? We know what the cloud is. It's stored on an outside server, so you can access it from anywhere. So you have your agents here. What's nice about having agents is you can also have something called an agent group. I don't have one created yet, but what it is you have a group of agents that can pull those scheduled automations or those jobs, and they can, run whatever one is available, it'll run it for you. For my purposes, I'm just using one agent because I'm only running one unattended automation. But if you do need to scale and you do need to run, hundreds of thousands of jobs, having those agent groups is really, really helpful. We also have something called alerts. So anytime there's something important or something that should be of note to the user, as you could see, my agent has been inactive, so it will alert you when good things happen, when bad things happen. As you can see, when we use the studio, I'll show you guys some of that alert stuff. We also have assets where we can have text assets, file assets, JSON assets. We have many different types of assets. So what those are used for are, again, you'll see as we go through the studio automation, assets are going to be how you're going to store external information. Like I said, you may have an automation that may be run on different machines or servers or jobs, right? So you're going to have to store that information in one place, and the cloud server is the perfect place to do that. You may have a config file or just a random image or something like that that may needs to be processed or used in your automation. This is where the assets are going to be extremely helpful for you. And you will see that when we do our unattended automation later on. Here we have our automations themselves. So once you create your script in the OpenBots Studio, again, we can use C# scripts, our OpenBots scripts, our Python scripts. We support all different types. Once you create that and you test it and you run it, make sure it's working as expected, you can publish it to the cloud server to be stored, and again, be able to be accessed pretty much anywhere, which is really nice. We do have versioning, so if you need to update something or alter something, you can change those versions and update new versions of the same, not the same, but your updated script. So that's your automations there. You will also see any billing. So this is the way that OpenBots makes our money, right? This is how we continue to run as a business. We have amount of minutes that are used to orchestrate or to run our jobs, our unattended automations. So mine is a little bit different, as you can see, because obviously I work for OpenBots, but you will see if there are minutes used. After today, I will have some minutes used because I will be running some automations. Right now, I've only used about 5 minutes of my monthly usage. Depending on your plan, you will have a certain amount of minutes that you can use. So if you're ever not sure or need some information there, this is the perfect place to go. We also make our money on any storage. So again, if you have any file storage or any logging storage or anything that you need to get stored by us in the cloud server, that's again another way how we make our money. Depending on your plan, same thing. We allow a certain amount of storage. You can always upgrade depending on your plan, but this is a great way again to see what's going on here. How are you managing and orchestrating in the best way for your company?
And Nicole, let me just take a short break for 20 seconds because
No problem.
um, Jose Carlos Sabilian Flores, I hope I pronounced your name right. Welcome to the stream. And he says, "Hi, Anders and Nicole. Thanks for the time today." So we have viewers. And if you people out there think that Nicole is doing a great time here on YouTube, that's because he already produced a lot of YouTube videos for OpenBots. I will drop the link in the chat. So please go there after the stream and not now, but the link will be in the chat. And back to you,
Exactly.
Nicole.
No problem. So basically, whatever as Anders was saying, whatever I don't cover today is more than likely because we do have a lot of those videos. The Academy, you can take courses and whatnot, where you can learn a little bit more. I'm giving kind of a brief overview, and then I will do some studio stuff as well, but I'm probably going to brief over a few things unless we do have the extra time. I know time flies, but so if I do miss anything or you're still confused or want to learn more, feel free to go to our Academy. It is free to use. I'm going to skip the change history just because that pretty much just shows anything that's added or updated or deleted. That's pretty self-explanatory. But what I really want to discuss are credentials. Again, I will show this later on, but we have our credentials vault. So we have different types of credentials. A little preview that I will share with you guys is I know we are going to have, as Cameron noted last week, that we will have our version 2.0 coming up. As of right now, we only have our Active Directory, our application, and our machine account credential providers. However, we will have some new providers that will be coming up for 2.0, such as TOTP, temporary one-time password. I think we will also be having some public and private keys that we can store for some cryptography. So right now for 186, I can only show you guys our regular, username and password credentials that we will store. But just as a preview, if you want to look into it once we do release 2.0 in a few weeks, we will have those options available because I know they've been asked for a lot. So we definitely been getting your guys improving as we go. So that's one thing to make note is we are open to suggestions and what clients and users want to see. So what's really cool about our credentials is we have something called a credential policy. So if you guys have, if your company has a specific policy that they adhere to for passwords or something like that, we will adhere to that as well. As of right now, my policy is uppercase yes, lowercase yes, numbers yes, symbols no. And this is my default policy. So that means I can, this is always going to be set. So you can assign a specific credential policy to a specific credential. We also have, as you can see.
And what does that mean in real life? What do we do here when we assign such a policy?
So think of when you sign into your Google account or any account that you log into, right? It'll say, your password does not have special characters in it, right? So ensures that every credential that you assign that policy has those specific qualifications. It has to have uppercase letters, it has to have lowercase letters, it has to have symbols, right? So this is just one way to secure your credentials to make sure that they are having strong passwords.
Understood.
Yeah. So we also have something that's really important, that we can also rotate our passwords. Another way that we try to keep our credentials secure. So having a credential policy ensures that we can rotate our passwords every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, on how your company or your organization works. So that's a reason why you may want to add a credential policy to your credential. We can also send emails. I'm not going to go too far into that. We all pretty much know how emails work. The one thing that I really love and that I actually worked on for quite some time, and you'll see some improvements in the 2.0 as well, as we have this file manager. Excuse me.
That's okay.
So this file manager will save, as you can see, all of your automations, all of your file assets. If you have any attachments for your queue items, if you have any attachments for your emails, we have more things in 2.0, such as our webhooks and stuff like that, where you can save specific files. So this will all be saved on the cloud server itself, so you can, again, access it from anywhere. You'll see any information for your storage drive. And just by the way, you can upload anything. It doesn't have to be specific. A component of the cloud server, you can upload, as you can see, just sample files and stuff like that, and folders. We also have some integration things. This kind of goes along with our change history. Again, anytime you can get a notification if you want to have a job that's made or a file or folder that has been created. As an administrator, you can get those notifications to make sure that the orchestration, the management, all that is working and running as expected. We don't want anything, going wonky or going wrong when you're running these automations, especially when they're unattended. Since you're not there to see what's happening, you want to make sure that it's working, right? Or it's doing what it's supposed to do. That's what an automation does, right? So I'm not going to go too far into this. You guys can explore it a little bit. I do have a video on this, so I don't want to waste too much time, but feel free any questions. Go ahead.
Actually, we have a question from Hamza. Hamza Kamal, welcome to the stream. Hamza says, and that was actually the point you skipped, but Hamza says, what can we do with the email configuration in the cloud server?
Sure. So I will show you guys this as well in the studio. The cloud is great. It has so many components, but I wanted to make sure you guys understand it before we go into it, because it does integrate with everything else. That's one of my responsibilities as a developer at OpenBots, to make sure that everything works together, right? So yeah, you can create these studio automations, right? But how can you get them to scale? How can you get them to work for you? That's where the cloud server comes into play, if that makes sense. So that's why we have so many different components to the cloud server. We want to make sure that it's doing what you need it to do, running the way you need it to run. It's hard to explain now, just because you're not seeing the automation run, but I promise you we will get to that part. I just want to make sure.
The answer for you was you have to stay tuned. We will cover your question later on, and please just update the chat if the answer then was not enough.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of the point of this video, right? We do have the cloud orchestration. It's great, but it has to work with everything else. That's a point of the orchestrator. So as you can see, when we go to the jobs here, I do have some jobs that I have run. Some have failed, some have completed. So these are the automations that I uploaded from the studio that I have created scripts for, and I have run them either on a schedule, I've run them one time, different things like that. You can see we can add checkpoints to our scripts. We can add something called distributed locks. I do have a video on this as well, where you can see basically what it does is another way of helping us scale, right? If you have multiple automations running at the same time, or the same script running on different servers or different machines, you want to make sure that a specific asset or credential or something like that is not being used at the same time and being updated, right? Otherwise, chaos ensues. We don't want that to happen. So using the distributed locks is one way to make sure that that specific asset is being used, it's being worked on, and then the next automation can wait and use it when the lock is unlocked. I'm going to skip queues for now just to go with schedules just because it goes so well with jobs. So a job is only created when you create a schedule, right? So when you add a schedule, you can put the name. If you have one agent that you want to work on, you pick that. If you have an agent group, you pick your agent group that you would like to work on it. So again, that just means that the one of the agents in that agent group will pick up the job. You pick your automation. You can run your schedule one time, recurring if you want it. Again, like I said, every hour, every day, every 2 days, weekly, monthly. Manual means it won't run, but it will run when you choose it to run, right? And then a queue arrival basically means when you have a queue and a queue item is created, it will run the job as soon as one is created for that. You'll have parameters. So again, I know a lot of us are familiar with UiPath. You have those in, out, and in, out arguments, right? So when you go into the studio and you have those are included here for your schedule in case you need to set any of those. To
Yeah, it
go
seems
back to
like a
queue
lot
item.
of
Yeah,
it
go ahead.
seems like it's very easy to transition from UiPath to OpenBots because I don't want to neglect any of the tools, but it's the same interface in both of them because they're built on the same engine, at least for the studio, and then
Right,
this
right.
cloud
I
server.
know. I know they use VB.NET a lot. We use C#, which are very, very similar. So it is an easy transition if you are looking to do something that is more manageable, more cost efficient. Just overall,
Cool.
I'm biased, but uh, a more
But you did
you
work
get
in
more
both
money
tools,
from it.
right? Yeah,
Yes. So
but you yeah
go ahead.
yeah. I was just asking. You did work in both tools.
Yeah.
You
So
were
similar
sorry.
to Cameron, I started training in UiPath. I didn't, go full fledged, but I do have some of that UiPath experience, so that's why it's easier for me to relate. I know that we have other products out there, but I just think you get more bang for your buck in a sense. You get a lot for what you're paying for. You don't have to pay for licenses or bot fees or anything like that. You're just paying for what you use, right? It's more of a SaaS-based model, right? Software as a service. You're paying for whatever you need to use it for. But just to go back to queue items really quick, I know we do something similar in UiPath where you have your queues, your queue items. As soon as those queue items come in, they get processed, right? We can add attachments, we can add JSON scripts, text, whatever you need in that queue item. Again, when you go back to kind of do some more research on the business center and business apps, you'll see when we fill out a site or form in the business app, or when we create a work item in the business center, it will, if you choose, it will create a queue item and it will work that queue item, right? So there are so many ways that the cloud server integrates with everything else. I don't have time to show you guys everything, but I will show you at least the basics of how we, integrate the studio and the agent. Any questions with this before I move on to
Yeah,
actually?
we have a great friend of the channel actually. Sahil is here with us. Hello, Sahil. Shama also goes by the name Neonova. He says, does this support Cron expressions also?
For schedules, he's asking, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So as of right now, we don't specifically, in the back end, we have cron expressions, but what our features we are wanting to have is if you are a specific admin or there's someone specifically that might need to use cron expressions in the future, that is something that we are going to add. As of right now, like I said, we create them in the back end for you. So you would have to do some sort of work here with the recurring schedule or something like that. But stay tuned for that. It will be coming, I promise.
I hope that was answer enough for you, Neonova. Otherwise, let us know here in the chat.
Awesome. I did want to mention one more thing really quickly. I did forget before we move on to the agent side and the studio side. We do have something called areas, where let's say you have a huge organization, you have an HR team, you have a finance team, all of that stuff. If they want to be running their own specific automations, they can have their own areas, their own set of file assets, their own set of credentials, all of that stuff, that they can be running their automations in. And we can, manage that using our roles, our user groups, our permissions, all of that stuff. Very similar to like how you would think of if any of you are familiar with Azure DevOps, where you have, different rules for admins or machine accounts or contributors or administrators, stuff like that. So let's get to the fun stuff. So I am going to show you guys the assistant or the agent really quick. I don't think we've gotten too far into that with the other videos. So as you can see, I have assistant open. Again, the only difference between assistant and agent is the assistant will run attended automations, right? Your agent is going to be the one that you want to run unattended automations. So again, like I said, I do want to introduce a little bit of attended stuff just so you guys are aware that it's there, but we will be focusing mostly on the unattended. So with the assistant or the unattended automation software here, as you can see, I do have some automations that I've already created. I can create schedules to run those here if you don't have the cloud server subscription or anything like that. But again, it's only going to be able to be run on your machine only. Any info that we need, anything. So when you create an agent in the cloud server, all of this information you will need to be able to connect, right? So that is super important to know that you need that information when you're using the cloud server. Here we have our settings. We can connect to the cloud server or the on-prem server. Again, we're only connecting to cloud server today. Whatever organization, if you're in multiple, there's a possibility you may be in multiple organizations. Here's where the username and the password from your agent come in. The provision key is if you want to create a new agent in your agent group. That's where you would get the provision key from in the cloud server. And again, any extra settings that you want to make sure that are there. Again, we have some more execution settings. Unattended execution, if you want to make sure it's in a specific time zone or anything like that, you can set it there. We do have logging that will go to the cloud server. When we run the automation, you'll see that that will be the case. I have my minimum log level to verbose just so you guys can see all of the logs that we get when we run the script. You can set it to anything you want, information, warning, error, all of that stuff. And also change your log storage if you don't want it to go to cloud server. If you have somewhere else you prefer to send it to, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Any packages or anything you need, and any extensions. So if you need to use anything on Firefox, Edge, Chrome, anything like that, that's where you would install those extensions. So again, I just have it set to assistant. If I wanted to switch to agent, I can. As you can see, it's a little bit more basic. You don't need all of that stuff for the unattended automations. You're just going to have your basic connect, disconnect, and your information there. Any questions on that so far?
No, it looks very intuitive and
awesome.
Yeah, what we're used to.
Yeah, not too much going on there, but another thing to note with the agent is from 1.8.6, which is the version I'm showing you guys now, to 2.0, to 2.1, every version from now on, if you have older versions of OpenBots scripts or automations that you want to use, you can run those. So it does have that backwards compatibility, which is really nice. So you don't have to always upgrade your older scripts if we come out with a new version and you want to download the new version. So that's something to definitely keep note of, the assistant/agent. So now we get to the studio. I know you guys have seen a little bit of studio stuff before, but this is going to be a little bit more of how we integrate everything. I do already have a project for you guys that I have created just because it does involve a little bit of automation with UI, so not desktop automation, but with the web browser and stuff like that. That is not technically part of the unattended mode, and I just want to make sure we get to the parts that you guys want to see. So
Cool.
just give it a second to load. It's loading the package assemblies, as you could see below. I do have a lot of package assemblies. I added more than what we needed for the default just because of the server and the UI automation and stuff like that. So I'm going to just make this bigger so you guys can see everything. So here is our studio. I already have some native browser commands. Basically, that what's going to happen is I'm going to do a very basic, simple OpenBots. Basically, get an asset, get a credential, log in. None of the information I have is stored in the script itself. It's all being stored on the cloud server. So as you can see, I have some comments here. As a coder myself, I love having comments. It helps me, map everything out. So just a little tip, if you have not coded before or not coded in OpenBots before, we do have those comments, which is really nice. So as you can see, I do have some extra comments here that are missing some things. So as you can see, it says get URL for web page from cloud server asset. So what you can do is you can download the server commands from our package manager here.
I love how simple the commands, the commands in the main are. That they're just one line and one line of description, so it's easily to get an overview of.
Exactly. So we kind of base it off of the NuGet package manager that's in Visual Studio, if any of you guys have really coded before. So we tried to make it as intuitive as possible. You can mark certain things as a default package. You can upgrade or downgrade your version depending on what you need. I'm going to stick with 1.8.6. I like to stick with the latest ones because they're always, the most up to date and have the most features. So I already have everything installed. If you are not sure what packages you already have installed, you just go to project dependencies right here. So these are the base packages that are installed when you install Studio. However, when you go to the gallery, it will offer you other ones. I also installed the server, image automation, and UI automation. In the 2.0, again, another preview is, I think Cameron said this as well, but you will also have, it's going to be changed to platform commands. Just because, as you noticed in the dashboard here, we originally started with Cloud Server, Studio, and Assistant/Agent, but we have grown to have so many other applications that we can work with or integrate with. So we're calling it the platform commands, and then it will just say, server, business apps, whatever application you want to use that integrates with our cloud. But as of right now, we have our server commands. And again, going back to this, we need to get an asset from the cloud server. I already have my variables created, very similar to UiPath, just Control K, you just create, or you can create them right from the variable panel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm in my server commands, I go to asset. All I have to do is to get asset. Anything that you're not sure of, you can see we have some little tooltips here. This command gets an asset from OpenBots server. We just type in our name. We have some IntelliSense here. Sorry, this is our URL that we want to get. URL asset name. That's the name of the asset. And then we keep our type as text. As you can see, we have number, JSON, and file, but we just need the URL. And then what is our output going to be? What's the value going to be, right? So I'm just going to do value v URL. And as you can see, it already pops up. If you didn't have it already created, you just do Control K and add the variable name. And if you have a value already there, pretty quick and easy.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all we need to do to get an asset. If you are testing, I like to add some show message commands or anything like that. But again, since this is going to be unattended, we don't want any of that, right? So show message or prompt the user or something like that, that wouldn't be something that you would see in an unattended automation. You would more likely see that in an attended automation, right?
And maybe you can repeat for us, why is it clever to use an asset for the URL here? And why
Yep,
not just
sure.
hard code it in?
Right, exactly. So when we create these automations or these scripts, especially when we want to get them to scale, we are using them in multiple computers, machines, servers, wherever you're storing your or have your agent set to. So when you are using those multiple machines, you want to make sure that if something gets updated on one, you also have to update it on the other. If you have that asset stored in the cloud, it's in one place, one location. It's easy, it's quick, it's simple, a lot less work to maintain, right? That's the whole point of having a cloud server, to orchestrate, maintain, manage, all that fun stuff. So here we have, I'm just opening an instance of Chrome. I'm navigating to the OpenBots site. So I'm going to use this, I create my instance. I'm going to use this value that I get from the asset, right? As of right now, I don't have any value there, but when I run the automation or I run the script, it will populate. So it will navigate to the right URL that you need it to. Again, you can use this for anything. I'm just doing this for a basic instance just so you could see how we integrate it with everything else. You can integrate it with, with SAP, with whatever you need, with any other application. So once that's open, we need to obviously log in. So what do we log in with? Our credentials. So I'm going to go to credential and get credential. Again, I already have my credential name, whatever the name of the credential is that you have on your cloud server. So for instance, I'll just show you guys here. I have my Active Directory credentials, my machine account credentials that I connect to the agent with. And then here is my regular credential that I'm going to use to sign into OpenBots with my OpenBots account. So we just output that again, whatever you want to name your variable. It's just going to be of type OB credential. So it'll have a username, a password, all of those values. Very similar to C#, right? You have the different property values. So you can also add different C# code to get what you need to get. So as you can see, I get my credential, right? But I need to be able to get that username and get that password out of it, right? So I'm getting my credential, I'm storing it in that V credential. What I get from the credential is not a string, it's going to be a secure string. So that wouldn't help me log in if I need to type it in, right? So here's where you can do it multiple ways. I'm just doing this to show you guys how you can use C# code in your scripts. There's something called set variable. And we have our input value, right? So I'm going to copy this over just for simplicity. And all this is going to do is it's going to change that secure string into a regular string. And I want to store it in some sort of variable, so I have it where I can use it to log in. So I have my get credential. I want to set my variable to be able to obtain that credential password, right? It's still secure. I can't see it. I can't do anything with it until I actually log in. So again, I input my username, I input my password. All of that is done through the native browser commands. Then I log in. One thing that I do want to mention is you can add screenshots to your job logs, which we will see once the job is run. So there's something called take screenshot command. And I'm just going to keep it on my desktop. You can save it to a folder. I'm not doing that right now. You can put a file name, anything like that to store it with. I just want to store it in a bitmap. So anytime you take a screenshot or use any of the image commands, it will store it as a bitmap variable. So once we have that actual screenshot, once we're logged in, again, I just have a delay just so you guys can see it when the automation runs. Otherwise, it's really quick and you can't even see it when I was testing it. So once we have that screenshot, we have logging, right? So again, you can log to anywhere you want, but automatically we will log to the cloud server.
Maybe
So you
just
want to.
a little bit of question. How did you open? You found the log message over to the left in the commands. How
Yep.
did you open up this?
Sure. So one way that you can find commands is through the search bar. Unless you know, like you have to know the command name, obviously, or if you know it's in core commands or something like that, you can drop down. But if you're not sure or you want to see if a command is available, you can just type it in the search bar and it will populate.
And then you double clicked. Yeah.
Yep, double click. Exactly. You can drag and drop. I prefer to double click. If it's highlighted here, it'll go right below it. So you just have to make sure.
Yeah.
If you do double click, obviously you can drag or drop later, but so we can just log any text that we want. So for example, screenshot taken, user has been authenticated, right? Again, any type of log type you want. This sounds like an information log to me. I just want to know that the user has been authenticated. It could, you can have a warning, something didn't work right, or when you have exception handling, you got to make sure you have exception handling in your scripts. Again, this is very, very simple, but when you do your real automations or your real scripts, you definitely want to make sure you have exception handling. So you may want to add a warning, add an error, add something that happened fatally. But right now, let's just keep it as an automation. We do have an optional bitmap image, right? So this is where the screenshot comes into play. Here, I just want to add my bitmap that I took my screenshot in. You can do a capture image, an upload image, different things like that. But I just want to show that I have been authenticated successfully. So I'm just going to do it that way for now. And then once we take that screenshot, we can just close the browser. We're done. So that's pretty much how we create our scripts in the studio. But again, how does this work with the cloud server? How does it work with the agent, the assistant for unattended automation, right? So
And speaking of assistant, we actually have a question for Hamza. And so maybe you can get a little bit of water, and then I can read out the question. Hamza, again, thanks for joining the stream. And Hamza asks about the difference between the agent and the assistant.
Sure, no problem. So our assistant is the one that we are going to use. It's the same product. I'll reopen it again. It's the same exact product. The only difference is when we are in assistant mode, it helps us with our attended automations if you need to be involved in the automation itself, right? So when you are in the assistant, you may want to run a specific schedule with you there, right? Or if you need to be involved, adding approvals or checking a document or making sure that something is working as expected. When you run in the agent, that is where you run in unattended mode. So it's just going to run without any of your help. So that is the difference between agent and assistant. Again, I use them interchangeably just because I use it a lot. So I may say agent, I may say assistant. As of right now, since we're doing unattended, we really should refer to agent.
That's cool. And thank you, Hamza. And if you people out there enjoy this stream and want to see more OpenBots, please give the video a thumbs up. That will really help OpenBots and the channel a lot. So thank you, and back to you, Nicole.
For sure, no problem. So here's where the fun stuff happens, where all the integration, right? So we understand the cloud server, we understand the studio, we understand the agent. Now, how does it all work together, right? So we have in this file actions here, we have something called publish project. Oh, do I have an error happening here?
Ooh, the sweat of a life built.
Let me see. And that's the nice thing about Studio. We'll tell you when you have an error. So if it doesn't run or it doesn't work, it will tell you. So here it says the name native browser instance does not exist in the current context. So for some reason, it's not validating here.
There was you said BROSWER. I think you misspelled it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, you did misspell it. Now it's you just had the can you see it? Browser instance, it says in the arrow. It says the name and then native browser instance. So it's just spelled browser spelled wrong.
That one looks okay. Here it is.
We were sweating for 20 seconds, but now it's all good.
Let's see. Still getting an error. There always has to be something going wrong when you go live, right? There has to be one thing. It never can go perfectly.
But now you get everyone's attention.
Yep.
I think it's all of them.
Fix this, yeah. Try to be prepared, and that's what happens.
No problem.
That's the one good thing about IntelliSense, right? It will fix it very quickly for you.
Yeah. But you probably didn't use them while we created these actions.
Right, yeah. I just did it very quickly. I already had one running, so I copied it over very quickly just to make sure that I had all the steps. But that's the nice thing about automations, right? Once you have it running and going, it'll just keep doing it.
Also the last line. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, almost there.
Yep. And it's actually also saying that's the smart here. It says which line we have the error in, like 4 or 21. No?
Let's see. All right, looks like we're okay now. What I can do after I publish, what I should have done, which is what I did when I was testing, but again, to save time, I always run it first in the studio to make sure that it's running as expected, it's doing what it needs to do, right? You have these debug breakpoints similar to like Visual Studio or something like that, where you can stop, look, add your show messages just to debug and make sure you're getting the values that you need. And then I would publish, right? For the sake of this video and for the sake of time, I'm not doing that, which is why I got the error that I got, which is luckily the studio has that error handling in there. But always when you are developing and you are creating a new automation, you do want to make sure that it is running in the studio first. So as you can see, our cloud orchestration was published successfully. And when you go to automations, here we have our first version, right? So it does everything for you. It uploads it, it saves it to the cloud. So now that we have the automation in the cloud, what do we do with it, right? We want to run it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a schedule. So I prefer to name them similar to what the automation name is. Obviously, it's up to your preference. I'm going to use my specific agent. I'm not going to use an agent group. I can also set how many max jobs I want this schedule to run. So let's say you run it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every hour, right? I only want it to do a maximum of 100 jobs. Even if I technically will run 200 that week, it'll stop after that many jobs, right? Or stop after that many hours that it has run. So I'm going to do a one-time job just because it's going to run now. My start date is going to be right now. I don't have any schedule parameters. If I did have arguments or anything like that, I can add them here, our in-out parameters, all of that stuff. And then I just save it. So our schedule has been added successfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to, so it's probably not going to work this time because I forgot to sign out. Let me go back to, but if you do notice it, it will tell you when the unattended automation is running. It'll probably fail, but I'll run it again.
No problem. So what's
as you can
happening
see-
here?
But as you can see in the bottom, it'll say, the job has been created, the job is running, all of that stuff. So you know when it's actually happening. You will see things happening on the screen. It may or may not run successfully just because, again, I forgot to log out. But let's see. It probably failed already. Okay. So let's go to our jobs. Org. Always make sure you're in the right org.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, this job failed, right? It didn't complete successfully. Something happened.
And what happened here actually?
Yep, so I was already logged in, so I have to
Mhm.
make sure I have to log out. But I will do that next time. I'll show you guys, just so you can see how a failed job runs. It'll still give you all of the logs, any errors that occurred. It'll tell you basically what happened, right? If I was able to log in and see everything running, the logs will populate almost immediately. But here we can see that it did not execute as expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I can go back to the schedule and I can do something called run now, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it like a minute or so just so I can have time to log out.
Yeah.
So I will edit this, give it, a minute or two.
41 or something. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Save, and so when I schedule it to run, that's when it's going to run. Okay, so our schedule is updated successfully. Our job will be created as soon as that job is run, but I just want to make sure that I'm logging out.
Are you in London or something? Like your 1 hour?
I am on a VM, so it's UTC time, I believe.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Yeah. So we'll give it a minute or two, and it should run unattended. While we're waiting, do we have any questions or anything you would like me to discuss or clarify?
No. I think you did a brilliant job. And again, if you think that Nicole is great doing these demos, it's because she already has her own YouTube channel at the OpenBots Enterprise RPA YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the chat. And if you like what you see here, you can always give the video a thumbs up. And I actually can confirm that there will be 5 more OpenBots videos a few months ahead. And so maybe you will come back, Nicole, or some of your
I'm
skilled
sure
colleagues
I
that we have.
will.
That's great. I hope so.
Yeah.
And now we
Yeah.
only have to talk our way through 1 minute, and then the robot should run if we set it up correctly. Or you did. I just spectated, but still, that's also.
Yes, very important.
And so what we need here is the license to $49. Then we can have this unattended use for the OpenBots. Is that correctly understood?
Exactly. Yep. So you always, when you sign up, you always get the 30-day free trial. If you sign up for the $49 plan, that's the most basic plan. Oh, here we see downloading and extracting automation package. I'll still explain as it runs, but Yep. So when we have that community edition, all that is just downloading the studio and the agent. So that is really just being able to run locally on your instance. Then you have the $49 plan. That's the one that includes the 30-day free trial. That's a great way to just start out, play around. Again, you have no obligations for the first 30 days, just to try it and see if you like it, what you could do with it, what works best for your organization, right? Then as you scale or you get larger, you have more bots and orchestration things that you need to do, then that's where you upgrade your plans to the two larger ones.
Cool.
So we should have seen, unless it's not.
Do we dare to log in? We don't, right?
No, it should be running. Let me see. I may need to reinstall the extension again.
Cool.
Let's see. And if not, I just re-upload a new automation, right? That's the easy part.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Actually, I have another idea that I can show you guys, since I already have one that's up and running.
And actually, I can tell you, Nicole, we never had more viewers during the last hour than now. So
Awesome.
no pressure.
I know the live demos never work the way
And
we want them to, right?
if you want some good news, then from the chat, then RPA consultant Eric Paris says, "Great job, Nicole."
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
And just let me know if you can talk while you figure these things out.
So I already have a schedule here that I'm just going to run again. I'm going to switch my org. This live video template is one that I can run. It's the same thing. So what I'm going to do, just edit.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Let's see, what time is it? 15. I'm so bad with converting the time. Is that the correct time? Won't let me pass that, so.
But this one will be in the future, right?
Because I was running it. Yes, there we go.
20, that's 8 o'clock in the night.
No. I was working late one night.
Okay.
No, I don't want it. There we go.
Yeah.
Let's do one.
Yeah, that will be it.
Be safe.
And then, well, we have a question for you when you finish this, and we wait for this one to run.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Cool. That is Haman Dicini. Hello, Haman Dicini. Welcome to the stream. He says, when the job is failed, does it send any notification email?
Yes. So it won't automatically send a notification email. Once we run this job, I will show you some additional things that we can do that I can add, like sending an alert or sending an email with a screenshot. You can do different things like that if you do want to get notified when your job fails. So there are ways, like I said, that's where kind of the integration events and the alerts and emails come into play. So that's a great question. Yes, we do have that capability.
Yeah, so we just need to configure it ourselves if we want to do that.
So it's in the, it's a command. It's called send server email command in the server, or will be the new platform commands. So all you have to do, you'll have your email account set up in the cloud server first. Once you create that email account, it will link to, let's say, your Gmail or your Outlook or whatever email account you have that you want to send your email from. And then all you do is, like I said, send your screenshot or just send a notification. This job failed, blah, 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 whatever you want to send there.
Cool.
So here.
I hope that was answer enough, Haman. Otherwise, let us know in the chat. And Nicole, while we wait here, we have how many time left? it should be running now
It
if
should be, yeah.
if it's configured right this time.
Of course, I ran it 10 times before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
If we can't get it running, I do want to show you guys some other things, just to, oh, there we go.
It did.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
If not, that's my error. It's not an OpenBots error.
No,
so
no.
I apologize.
And you probably have a video that will show us the correct procedure if we want to set it up.
Exactly.
So now it's running.
It says running. Oh, there we go. So we're
going.
Yeah. We're going here.
Yeah. That's nice. So do we store the logs on the cloud server? Do they also store locally?
Which ones? The distributed logs?
Yeah, the logs from so all the logs that we create here from when this robot runs, do we store them locally as well, or do we only store on the cloud server?
It depends. If you're using the cloud server, then those get stored on the cloud server. If you're using the on-prem server, then those will get stored locally.
Cool.
So as you can see, we are logged in. It's gonna wait a couple of seconds just because I did want to take the screenshot to show you guys when we get the job logs. Otherwise, it would close out almost immediately. I barely even saw it when it closed out. That's why I added that timer. So as you can see, we're closed. So I'm gonna go back, look at the job logs here. So glad we got it to run successfully. As you can see, it is pretty quick. Sometimes, and I did add some wait commands just because sometimes when, it may take a few seconds to load to the next screen, so it may not, it really checks almost immediately. So sometimes you need to add those wait for element commands, which is why it was a little bit slower and just for demo purposes, right? So going back to our dashboard, our cloud server, you will see that our job has been created, complete. Oh, hold on, that's not it. Okay, so this is the right one. So this job has been created, completed. You can go to the logs to see everything that happened. So as you can see, one of them is our information log screenshot command, right? So here we have the screenshot that it took. As you can see, it took a screenshot of the desktop to show that I have been logged in successfully. So that's one way to show accountability. To kind of go back to the email question, if you didn't want to send an email, you can just do some error or exception handling, add a screenshot there, log it, and you'll see it in the job logs as well. So again, there's many different ways to show accountability of whether a job has been run successfully or not. Yep.
Cool, Nicole.
To kind of go back to your question also, I have some additional commands that I have here just to show you guys really quick. As you can see, there are so many server commands and business apps and business center commands. There is this send server email. If there is no account name here, it just automatically defaults to whatever the default email account is, whoever you want to send it to, whatever you want to say, whatever attachment you want to add. So there is that way, you can send an email to a user if you need to. You can send it for when a job has failed or anything like that. There are many different purposes. Same thing with raise alert, kind of similar to logging. You have different levels that you can use, info success warning. So let's say I wanted to create an alert for when I was successfully authenticated, right? This is what I would add right after I logged in. And you would be able to see it on that alerts page in the cloud server. That was right here. And anything that's pending, you can go there and dismiss just to say, hey, I already saw it. I don't need to know anymore. And it won't show up there unless you go to the dismissed alerts. So that's kind of interesting. Another thing that you can do with, this is not technically in the cloud server, but more so in the business center. This is more for attended automations. So, oh, I got locked out. Let's see if it'll log me back in. So basically what the Business Center is you have work items similar to like Azure DevOps, right? Different types of tasks or approvals. You can create a work item here. You can create a work item here. I just created one called Authenticate. Basically, I'm telling the user or the client that I want you to go and log in, right, to this OpenBots application. Once that happens, I can see that it's assigned to whoever. It could be assigned to me, to somebody else. If it's my job, I want to make sure that I do that, right? So instead of me going in and doing that, I can just create an automation for that. If I have an automation linked to this work item, I can just run it right here, which is really nice. So for example, this one, I just have a log image. I can also manually update it, but what's even better is in the studio, I have these work item commands, right? So I can get the work item, show the status, has it been created, has it been completed already? If it's completed, I don't need to do it. If it's created and it hasn't been worked on yet, I can work on it, right? So if I have all of this, I can add it into the automation the script that I created here in the main. And basically, once I'm logged in, I'm authenticated, I can update that work item status and say, hey, that work item's done. It's completed, right? So that's another way of adding your human in the loop or your using your attended automations to work for you in your company.
What
So
was
I
the
know.
difference between tasks and approvals in your
Yep,
cloud server?
great question. So the difference between tasks and approvals is a task is very basic, incomplete or complete, right? So your task is for, let's say, when you authenticate a user, it's not complete yet. You haven't done it. Once you've authenticated and you did what you need to do, you mark it as completed. You know it's done. An approval has a little bit of an extra step to it. Well, not a step, but an extra part. So you still have your different statuses: created, in progress, completed, abandoned, right? But when you start the progress, it's not completed. You either approve what has happened or you reject. So let's say, somebody requests something. Are you going to approve them or deny them, right? So that's where approvals come into play. For this situation, I would use a task just because it's either, done or not done. You don't have to approve or reject anybody. But that is the difference between tasks and approvals.
Very cool, Nicole.
I know we have a few more minutes left. There was something else that I did want to show you guys. Let me close out of here and reopen it. So I already had a project created. We can create new projects. Anytime you use a script like the one that I've been using, that's just a basic OpenBots script, right? But we do have our Python, our tag UI, our C# script, our PowerShell scripts. You can create those in OpenBots as well. Just for the purposes of this video, again, I just want to show you guys how we integrate everything and how everything works together. So more or less, we like to stick to OpenBots, but I know some people do prefer different ways of automating. So you do have that option with OpenBots, which is really nice. I did explain the backwards compatibility. I did want to go back to our OpenBots. And just show you guys, I know Anders was saying this before, you have all different ways you can learn. Anything that you need to learn is all on the OpenBots.ai website, Academy, anything like that. All the videos for that star me, if you want to watch. There are other great videos with Brian and Natalie and Cameron as well that you can see to fill in any of the gaps that we missed or anything that you want to learn more about. The other thing I know I get asked a lot is what industries can we use OpenBots in? If you look on the OpenBots.ai website, there are multiples: hospitality, logistics, mortgage, banking, finance. There's so many different ways that you can use it, and we have so many different commands, and they're growing. We're constantly adding new ones. We're taking your suggestions. We want to make this work for you guys. So we are always, as you will see with 2.0, we have a lot of great things coming. And if you do want to learn more or know anything else, we do have our OpenBots Global Digital Workforce Summit coming up on February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I believe it is free to sign up. Don't quote me on that, but you can check it out. We do have lots of great videos and more tutorials that we can that you guys can see. And as Anders said, we do have some more coming up with him as well. So we have lots of great things to show you guys in the future. So I'm really excited.
Me too, Nicole. And thanks a lot for showing us this, how we can configure the cloud server, what it was, and we even got an unattended robot running after the first attempt.
Yep.
So that was
It's a
really
learning
great.
curve for sure, but
Yeah, and
it's hard.
it
It's
wasn't an OpenBots issue. It was probably just a
No, it
miscall
was
or
me.
something. Yeah,
So personally, I like to be logged in when I run my automations because I can literally see how they work as they work. So for me, it's hard, when I do log out. But I did want to show you guys just a simple, easy automation that pretty much anyone can do, right? You can log into any website and do this. So, and
cool.
it works in the studio, it works in the agent, it works in the cloud server, and you got a little bit of Business Center in there too with our work items. So there's a
Yep,
lot you can do with it. Just
definitely. And it
the
was really nice to see,
possibilities.
Nicole. Thanks for a great live build and stream.
No
Thanks
problem.
to all the viewers out there, and thanks for participating with watching, questions, everything you did to make this stream better. If you enjoyed it, again, give it a thumbs up. That will bring it out to more people so more people can see OpenBots and Nicole. And Nicole, thanks for spending more than an hour with us here.
No problem. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.